What is good, 7th graders? We are working on G6, which is area, surface area, and volume. So a couple formulas that we need to remember. I'm going to assume that you remember how to find the area of a square, of a rectangle, more simple shapes like that. But we are going to review finding the area of a triangle. That formula, A equals, which stands for area, 1/2 of the base times the height. Okay, another way to write that is base times height divided by 2. So if I had a triangle and my height goes down the middle, let's say that's 2, the base is 4, I would do 2 times 4, and then I would divide that. Find the area of that triangle, I would do 2 times 4, and then I would divide that by 2. So that's 8 divided by 2, which is 4, would be the area of that triangle. A trapezoid is a little bit more complex, but not too bad. It's very similar to a triangle, actually. Area equals B1 plus B2 divided by 2 times the height, okay? So let's take a look at a trapezoid and see what that looks like. Here's an example of a trapezoid. We're going to make that a right angle, which tells us this is the height. We'll call it 4. This base is 8. The top base is 6. And that's all we need to know to find the area. So the B1 and the B2 are going to be the sides of the trapezoid that are parallel, which means the sides that will never intersect if they kept going forever. If these two sides kept going, eventually they would run into each other. These two sides, if they kept going, they would never run into each other. Okay, so that's our B1 and our B2. So what we do is we add those two together, we divide by 2, and then we multiply by the height, which is 4, and then we simplify that. 6 plus 8 is 14, divided by 2, times 4. 14 divided by 2 is 7. 7 times 4 is 28. So the area of that trapezoid would be 28. Okay? So make sure you have these formulas written down and these examples so that you know how to use those formulas, because they're going to come up and you're going to need them in your notes in order to know how to solve. All right, and then we have perimeter. Perimeter is just the distance around the outside of a shape. So I'm just going to say distance around. Okay, for example, if we had a rectangle and it was 2 and 4, you would add all 4 sides together. That would be the perimeter. So 4 and 4 makes 8, plus 2 is 10, plus 2 more is 12. So 12 would be the perimeter. If this was inches, we would make sure we had our label of inches on there. Okay, remember, opposite sides in rectangles are the same. So this bottom side would be 4. The right side would be 2, and that's how I got 12 when I added those all together. Okay? Surface area is like just finding the area, but you're finding the area of all the faces of a 3D object or a 3D figure. Okay? So maybe we are looking at a rectangular prism like this. And you'll see these in the examples as well. You need to find the area of all 6 faces. Okay, so a 3D figure like that actually has 6 faces. All right, if we have a rectangular prism like this, there are, which is similar to what I drew there, there are 6 faces. There's the top, the bottom, the left, the right, the front, and the back. So to find the surface area, you have to find the area of all of those and then add them all together to get the area of the total surface. Okay? Same thing is true if you have a cube. There's 6 sides, top, bottom, left, right, front, back. You would add all of those together to get the total surface area. Okay? So the shapes of these faces or surfaces are all rectangles or squares. So that's pretty easy to find the area of. Length times width. You have the area of those, add them all together. If you have a pyramid like this, it gets a little bit more complicated, but not too bad. These faces are triangles. So you find the area of the triangles, add them all together. The bottom is a square. So you find the area of the square, add it to the 4 triangles, you have your surface area. So I'm going to write add, and write this in your notes, the area of all the faces, that's the mathematical term, the faces together, which is just a different way of saying the sides. So add the area of all the sides together, it's going to give you your surface area. Okay, volume now is the space inside. So if I go back to this cube, volume is how much goes in here. Okay, how much fits in there. And for a rectangular or square prism, that's pretty easy. It's not too bad. You probably already know it, or you've seen it before. It's just length times width times height. Okay, length times width times height. So make sure you get that formula written down. Pretty straightforward. So if you had something like this, you have the length, you have the width, you have the height, you just multiply those 3 together, tells you how much fits inside of there. Okay. All right, when we get to triangular prisms, it gets a little bit more difficult. Okay, for a triangular prism, I'll draw one here. So dotted lines are in the background. That's my triangular prism. To find the volume of that, I have to find the area of the base, which the base is a triangle, so I have to find the area of the triangle and then multiply it by the height. So the volume would be area of the base, which is triangle, so we know that's base times height divided by 2, and that's the height of the triangle, and then we have to multiply that by the height of the prism. So then we'd multiply by h again, and I'm going to put a little p there, which means height of the prism. Okay, so I'll put a t here. That's the height of the triangle, that's the height of the prism. So I find the area of the base times the height. So let's add some numbers. Let's say this is 5. The height of our triangle inside there, we'll say that's 2. Height of our prism is 10. Okay, so you see the 2 different heights, height of the triangle, height of the prism. They're noted differently in our formula as well. So make sure we write down that formula. Okay, so let's start with the area of the base. Area of a triangle is base times height divided by 2. So I'm going to do 5 times 2 divided by 2. That's 10 divided by 2, which is just 5. And then we're going to multiply that by the height of the prism, which is 10. So I end up with 5 times 10, which is 50. Okay? So make sure you have both of these formulas down in your notes. They're going to be really important as you're working through the practice. All right? Let's do some examples.